Welcome to the Des Child Show, your hour of encouraging talk and music. So I want to ask you a question. What are the towers in your life? Now, you probably have no idea what I'm asking, so just let me explain. My husband recently spoke on the very popular Genesis story of the Tower of Babel, and that's Genesis 11 if you want to read the full story. But after the flood, Noah's descendants were of one accord in language and in their vision. And what they really wanted to do was make a name for themselves. And doesn't that really sound familiar, all too familiar in this generation that we live in? I know I personally, unfortunately, have desired to make a name for myself. And I'll expand more on that as we go on, and I'm going to play some clips of my husband's lecture about this Tower of Babel. But there are so many people with that desire to become famous and to be known throughout the world. And in the end, God destroys that. He'll destroy that work. And in the Tower of Babel, God actually mixed up their languages in order to confuse them so they wouldn't do this wicked thing against him. So we're going to be discussing this in a greater detail, but first, here's Two Hands by Jars of Clay. My husband, Stephen Childs, spoke on the Tower of Babel story recently, and I wanted to share some clips from that sermon, which was really awesome. Right now, he's going to give us a summary of the story of the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11. Very interesting topic. I hope it encourages you and challenges you. Check it out.
Last week, we took a look at an amazing story, of course, found in Genesis chapter 11, dealing with the Tower of Babel. And we saw that this group of people, the early Babylonians, were an amazing bunch. They had something that has been sought after since that time, which is this incredible unity. The Bible says that they had one language, and they had one common speech, meaning that they did all, thank you guys, not only did they speak the same language, everyone, but they also, what they spoke was the same. It wasn't like it is today where everybody is disunified. Unfortunately, what they shared in their thoughts did not have any concern whatsoever or respect for God. In fact, they viewed themselves as a God, as a people. And they wanted to construct this giant tower, of course, to show their greatness, so that generations in the future would remember them and speak about how great of a people they were. And they knew that there was power in unity. They even said, let's make this tower so that we will not be scattered, so that we could just stay this unified people. But then we contrasted that, right? We looked at another ambitious person, which was King David. And we saw that King David also wanted to build something, which was what? The great temple, right? And his reasoning for it was so different. His reasoning was that he wanted to do this for the Lord. And God was so touched by that. If you remember when we read that last week, so touched by that. And so I asked us all the question, are we in our lives, are we building towers, or are we like David building temples?
So, what is Des Childs' tower? I asked myself this very question because I was really challenged by what my husband was talking about. And ever since I was young, I had it in my little head that I was going to be famous, either for singing or for acting. Acting was my first love. I wanted to be a child star. And I remember watching the reality shows that they had about child stars and their stage moms, stage dads, and how they would really push them and they would frustrate their children, all because they wanted to become famous. They wanted their children to become famous and, reap the benefits of that. And when I was young, I remember telling my friends that my mom was going to get me an agent. And I had no idea what an agent was or what an agent did, but it just sounded really cool. And I really wanted to be a child star, like I said, but I had no love for the actual art of acting. And I think that's what separates people who want to be famous from the people who actually enjoy acting or playing music. People who love it want to be great at it because they enjoy it and it fulfills them. People who just want the fame, the notoriety, the money, or whatever will find themselves disillusioned and discouraged quickly because they'll find out that it's actually a lot of work. But I digress. So my tower is this whole idea of building a name for myself when it comes to music. And I just attended a musician summit in Buffalo, New York, which was awesome, by the way. I really got to meet a lot of great people. I loved it. But when you're around such amazing talent, it's easy to get discouraged. And people are giving you all kinds of advice, which again was great. But it's easy to listen to that voice in your head that says you're not good enough. You need to do more. You need to get your name out there. Your YouTube page needs to look great. Everything needs to look perfect. And I really start to get worried and anxious over these thoughts that I'm not doing all I can for my career. Now, I'm not saying that working hard at your calling isn't good or godly, but that the motive isn't always good. And God, as we all know, God sees the heart. So if your motive is to get your name out there and to be famous, then I really truly believe that this isn't good. And according to the Tower of Babel story in Genesis 11, this isn't good at all because God will destroy that. And we'll soon become tired, we'll soon become stressed and give up. But if our motive is to love people, if our motive is to share the gospel through the pulpit God has given us, given me, then it will be blessed. We'll find fulfillment. And you know what? God will promote our calling and ministry as he sees fit. I believe artists and singers like Chris Tomlin, Mercy Me, Britt Nicole, and such have been elevated by God for such a time as this. They're at where they're at for a reason. And if God wants to do the same in our ministries, then we should just leave that up to him and be the best that we can be for him and for his kingdom and not try so hard to do that ourselves. We'll be a lot less stressed if we just let go and let God. Here's Letting Go by singer Stephanie Smith. That was Stephanie Smith with the song Letting Go. So I'm playing a few clips from my husband Steve's sermon on the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11, and he goes on to discuss the mentality of the people in those days. They were very, very smart. They had the power to exchange information instantly. And isn't that interesting? It sounds really familiar, doesn't it? It sounds like today's generation. We have this thing called the smartphone, which I'm sure many of you heard of, which my husband does go on to talk about, that can translate any language for you just by downloading an app. So we are definitely united in language. And he goes on to say that language today is zeros and ones. The smartphone has broken down the language barrier. It really has. We are most definitely in the information age, just like the days of the Tower of Babel. So we're going to continue with my husband's sermon called Are We Building Towers or Are We Building Temples? Enjoy.
Now, what were some of the things that we should be looking out for? That we found within the narrative of the Tower of Babel. Well, first off, there was one language. Okay, we already discussed that. Very importantly, their knowledge was increasing dramatically. Again, we talked about the fact that they were building bricks. Now, to us, that's not a big deal. Okay, it was a big deal to them. They invented this thing that they can now make giant cities. That's major. How they even figured it out is beyond me, but they figured it out. And the Lord looked at it and said, look, if they can do this as one people, they can do anything. And again, I find that the Lord was trying to protect man. The ability of mankind to all speak one language made it possible for man to do anything that he set his mind to. Why? Because the transference of information is a powerful thing. Because knowledge that is unbridled can be deadly. One world language, right? We said that. One world language is something that the early Babylonians had. Do we have that today? I think we do, Because of that right there. Now, this isn't that long ago this device came out, and it utterly changed the world. We have apps out there. Look at this. Translate your voice into up to 100 languages. I can speak to anybody. Was ist los, meine Freund? And it'll be, hey, what's up, dude? That's us little, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Now that barrier, and really since the internet, that barrier's gone. You know what language is today? It's zeros and ones. That's what it is.
So the people in these days were of one mind, they were of one language, and they shared information like crazy. And that's definitely what we're seeing today in the world. My husband, Steve Childs, goes on to say something quite interesting concerning the unity these people had back then compared with the unity the church has today. It's kind of scary and kind of sad.
So there's a one-mindedness, a unity that the world has. And it's funny, we as believers don't have that at all. Oh, you're from the Baptist church? Well, I'm from the Presbyterian church. Oh, I'm from the non-denominational church. Oh, really? Well, there's the black church, and over here's the white church. Oh, there's the Hispanic church. I always tell people the most segregated day of the week is Sunday. That's why I just pray for us, man. You guys, all of us, that we would be united. We would be unified.
Yes, definitely pray for the church that we would be unified, because there is power in coming together and sharing information, sharing the gospel and encouraging each other and not breaking each other down. So Steve's going to give us one last piece of encouragement to live for God's kingdom, to build temples unto God and not build towers for ourselves, to make a great name for ourselves, to build a legacy here on earth. That's not what being a Christian is about.
So again, are we like them? Are we like the EU? Are we like the world that is trying to glorify ourselves? Why would we ever want to do that, knowing this stuff? It's easy to see that the governments of the world, through the UN, through the EU, are all working to come together, working on making us a one-world government, having a one-world currency, and eventually a one-world religion. Tower of Babel. As in the days of Noah. Again, Noah lived at that time. This is what the Lord is talking about. Noah probably was at that very spot. The countries around the world, their economies are all collapsing, and ours can very much collapse too. We're reaching our GDP versus gross domestic product. It's getting strikingly at dangerous levels. And it's going to force us then to all adopt this one world currency. So we must be mindful of the times that we live in. And guys, we need to be set apart. We need to be set apart.
So since I shared with you what my tower was in my life, continuing with this Tower of Babel theme, are you building towers or temples? I wanted to share with you my temple that I feel God is building in my life. And I truly say God is building it, not me. One of the ministries and pulpits God is giving me is in the area of teaching. I teach voice, piano, and guitar, and let me tell you, it's really hard work. And I can safely say that I will not be famous from teaching, but it's a temple God is creating in my life. And I minister to a lot of young girls in a one-on-one situation, and that's really been a blessing. I love getting to know them, laughing with them, making them laugh. It's not my ultimate vision for my life, but I know and I can sense that God is in it. And one by one, God is using me to impact my students in such a positive way that will hopefully lead him to say, well done, good and faithful servant, when I meet him face to face. And I actually met an old student of mine at a show I did recently. She looked super familiar, and it wasn't until after I performed that she came up to me and asked me if I taught in her area before. So we finally figured out how we knew each other, and all these memories just started flooding back in. I remember how sweet of a girl she was, how beautiful her voice was, how unique it was, that she was a Christian too, which was awesome. And I had supported her when she had a role in the play Pride and Prejudice. And that's one of my favorite books, by the way. So to see God bring us back together was such a blessing. And in our conversation, we also found out that the Bible college I attended and left teaching for was the same Bible college she attended a year after I graduated. So I thought that was really cool to see God's divine hand in that. And there's just so many stories like that in this temple of teaching music and that whole ministry of teaching music. So it's awesome to see God build these temples in my life. So I hope God is doing that in your life as well. Here is Build Your Kingdom by Ren Collective.
Come set your rule and...
Would you like to have Des play at your church, venue, retreat, or event? Well, she would love to come minister to you. Find out more and make your request. Go to dezchilds.com. That's DEZCHILDS.com.
I have some really exciting news that I want to share with you, and I'm super excited about. May 17th, I will be opening for the electronic duo Capital Kings. They are signed to Toby Mac's record label called Goatee Records at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia for Faith and Family Night. The show starts after the Philadelphia Soul game, so you got to get your tickets early. Go to philadelphiasoul.com. Again, that's philadelphiasoul.com. Stay for the game and then stay for the show. It's going to be a awesome night. So along with Capital Kings and yours truly, Des Childs, also performing is Leandria Johnson. She's won a few Grammys and Dove Awards. Latisse Crawford, and Steve Hare. So you don't want to miss this great event May 17th at Wells Fargo Center. Hope to see you guys there. That was Capital Kings with You'll Never Be Alone. And they'll be at the Wells Fargo Center May 17th. Get your tickets at philadelphiasoul.com. In honor of Mother's Day that just passed, I wanted to play one of the many songs my mom recorded when she was a young recording artist under the name Gigi Parker. Now, she would probably kill me if she knew that I just revealed her childhood stage name, but indeed she was and she still is a great singer. Now, she doesn't really like to sing in public, but I'm trying to help her conquer that fear. And this song that I'm going to play for you is her favorite song. And to tell you the truth, it's my favorite song that she sang. It's called In This Room. And it's not a Christian song, but I just really wanted to share it with you because my mom means so much to me and I wanted to dedicate this to her. So I know you guys will love her and love her voice. This is In This Room by Gigi Parker. That was my mom. Yes, that was my mother singing In This Room, and her stage name was Gigi Parker back when she was about, 11 or 12 years old as a recording artist, so I hope you enjoyed that song. Here on the Des Childs Show, we have Joe Antonelli. He is based out of Philadelphia. He is a singer-songwriter, and he just debuted his first album called Walk by Faith. Joe, how you doing? You have quite a testimony. I was reading some of your bio. You began writing songs at the age of 16, correct?
Yes.
And you joined a cover band. You played in bars and parties for some time. Give us a little bit more about how you got out of that scene to where you're at now doing more Christian-based music.
Well, in my late 30s, I guess, the drinking had gotten out of control. And some of my favorite places to play just didn't want me back anymore. They said I was a liability.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
And these are bars and clubs telling you that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
how ironic.
yeah. And that was like a slap in the face. I mean, it was fun while it lasted. But in some of the places, like, people would feed me shots while I played and all that. And it was just like one big party, you know, and then you tend to forget that I'm playing in a public place and it's, you know, they have a reputation to uphold.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that I just had kind of come to the end of my rope. And And after a while, I just found myself on my knees crying out to the Lord, like, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I knew I had kind of wasted the talent he'd given me, and playing bars was a dead-end scene anyway. I mean, I knew I was writing songs, but they weren't Christian songs. But I just knew that there was something else I was supposed to be doing. I didn't know how to attain it or what to do. So that's when I asked the Lord what to do with the talent that he'd given me. And then I eventually began to write songs for him or about him or how he's worked in my life, which seemed very strange at the time. You know, I didn't know how to write those kind of songs. And I heard the Lord tell me, just write from your heart.
We will come back to my interview with singer-songwriter Joe Antonelli, but right now I want to play for you a song by Steve Hare called A Heart Like Your Own, and he will be performing at Wells Fargo May 17th with Capital Kings, and yours truly, Des Childs, as well. That was Steve Hare with his song A Heart Like Your Own. On the phone, I have Joe Antonelli talking about his debut album called Walk by Faith, and he's going to give us a little backstory about how he became a Christian. Now, can you give us a little bit more about your testimony, how you got saved, how you became a Christian?
Yeah, what solidified it was one night I ended up in the ER from a bad experience with something that I just shouldn't have been messing with in the first place, and that just really woke me up. And I thought, you know, this could be it. I mean, I know the Lord just took removed the veil from my eyes, and saw like this, I can't continue like this, and I'm heading nowhere. And I mean, I could have died. Luckily, I didn't. But the Lord removed the veil and really scared me. I mean, he put the fear of himself into me, so to speak.
Use a little scare tactic on you.
Yeah, one that he just knows exactly what to do, how to do it. Well, it's amazing, you know. I mean, it may not have had that reaction with somebody else, or even with me at a different time, but that was the right time to do what he did.
It's amazing how God really does know us better than we know ourselves, and better than, you know, our parents know us, or siblings, or family, friends. He really knows how to reach us. And I think that's so amazing because there's so many of us. And for him to know everybody, millions and millions and millions of people so deeply, and how he reached your heart, you know, that day, because he knew that, you know, putting a little fear of God in you would wake you up, is just amazing. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, and it sure did. And what made it even freakier was that I'd been having some supernatural dreams prior to that incident. And then that night he gave my aunt a dream that coincided with the dreams I'd been having. And it was just too much. It was like, wow.
If you want to find out more about Joe Antonelli and his ministry and music, go to joeantonelli.com. That's ANOTONELLI. That's how you spell his last name, Antonelli.com. Here's one of his songs called I'm Not Gonna Let the Devil Get Me Down. That was Jason Gray with Every Act of Love. If you have a prayer request or you want to share your new project with us, please call 1-856-244-1503. We would love to hear from you.
Why do I breathe? Feel the warmth of the sun. Was it the